Question number 7 is another triangle. We're looking at it. I went ahead and drew it out and also drew out the distance formula just so that we could get through this more quickly. So in the distance formula, we're going to put in your x's. Let me zoom in. Put in x's 7, 10 in between t and m, and the y's 6 and 10. All right, 7 minus 10 is -3. Quantity squared is 9. Plus 6 minus 10 is -4. Quantity squared is 16. That's the square root of 25. Once again, I know the square root of 25 is 5. I'm leaving it that way because I need to compare the lengths of the sides, and to do that easily, they need to be in a similar form. So, okay, from I to m, it's 11 and 10 for the x's and 6 and 10 for the y's. 11 minus 10 is 1. Quantity squared is 1. Plus 6 minus 10 is -4. Quantity squared is 16. So this is the square root of 17. Okay. Lastly, going between t and I, 711 and 611. No, 6, excuse me. Okay, so 7 minus 11 is -4. When you square that quantity, you get 16, and 6 minus 6 is 0. Square root is still 0. So that's the square root of 16. All right. You will notice we've got the square root of 16, the square root of 17, and the square root of 25. None of those are the same, so we can go up here and say this is not isosceles. This is not equilateral. If it's not equilateral, it's not equiangular. Okay? Now, looking at whether or not about the angles, to figure out what the angles are, you've got to make kind of a Pythagorean comparison. Okay? And this is why I said leave it unsquare rooted, even though you want to square root it. You're going to figure out, first of all, so you're kind of looking at a squared and b squared. Those are always the two smallest ones. And you're seeing how does that compare to c squared, the largest one. So now then, in the square root form, the square root of 16, square root of 17, square root of 25, I can tell. I just put them in order from least to greatest. Square root of 16, square root of 17, square root of 25. And every one of them gets squared because that's what the Pythagorean theorem does. Square root of 16 squared is 16, plus the square root of 17 squared is 17, plus the square root of 25 squared is 25. Okay, so 16 and 17 is 33, and 25. And the question is, if that was a candidate for your hypotenuse, if your candidate for hypotenuse is gigantic, okay, if it's more than a squared plus b squared, that means you have to have a really wide open angle, so that would make it obtuse. But you can see that candidate for hypotenuse is not bigger than the other two combined, so it is not obtuse. Okay, it's not equal, so it's not right. And by the way, well, there's only one that leaves, and that's acute. So this is scalene and acute. And H, you can tell a lot about a triangle given 3 points.